Hello, this World Economic News looks like it's going to be a Euro special, based on the article by Ambrose Evans Pritchard in The Telegraph entitled Germany Must Choose EMU Fusion or Fission. I believe that the EU is the biggest economic bloc in the world. It's bigger than the United States, but if you put Canada and Mexico in, the NAFTA bloc's bigger. But it's a huge, important issue in the world of economics. And I think it deserves a little special of its own, because in 2 weeks' time they're going to have a meeting to try and sort themselves out. For the sake of peripheral nations, Mrs. Merkel has to stop paying lip service to monetary union. And what we've got here is fission or fusion. German Chancellor Angela Merkel is teasing Europe and deluding herself. She has said, "I'll see you in 2 weeks. If you can give me what I want, I will give you what you want." But deluding herself because those other people will not be able to give her what she wants. And probably she would not be able to give them what they wanted, even if they gave her what she wanted. Chancellor Angela Merkel has not yet agreed to pay 1 cent in help to crippled debtor states, nor has she faced up to the elemental question hanging over monetary union. And that's those cents that she hasn't given. Then nothing has been given yet to Ireland and Greece. It's been lent. This fusion or fission debate has not been settled. Yes, there has been much talk about Eurobonds and rescues, but then talk is cheap. I'm trying to hold back from explaining each of these, because in the end everything should explain itself. Ireland is paying 5.8% for the EU part of its €67 billion package, and that is a crippling rate for a country that has been in core deflation and seen a 22% contraction of nominal GDP. It is not a bailout. All that has occurred so far is that Irish and Greek taxpayers have taken on fresh debt so that creditors do not crystallise losses. It remains a disguised rescue for North European banks and insurers. Her own Bundesbank argued years ago that the EMU, Economic Monetary Union, is unworkable without fiscal union. And that has been vindicated by the events of the past 2 years. Either creditor states agree to an EU treasury, like the United States, which would be a transfer union and a debt pool, or EMU will be subject to unending stress and ultimately fracture, or shrink to a viable core, or so goes the argument. Basically, the United States of Europe it must be, or there will be endless problems. Global growth has alleviated the liquidity crisis. Things have got slightly better, so people have relaxed a little. I share the view of Albert Edwards at SocGen, Société Générale, that this is a deformed economic recovery built on extreme levels of government debt across the West. The recovery that we've got is pathetic compared to just a normal recovery since the Second World War. But compared to a normal recovery since the Second World War, plus the huge quantities of monetary and fiscal stimulus that's gone in, it is utterly pathetic. There is something grotesquely wrong in the OECD Western wonderful world. And as soon as that monetary and fiscal stimulus is pulled back, there is absolutely no chance that the economy will continue growing even a little bit overall. What continues, regardless, is a chronic crisis of varying degrees in peripheral EMU nations that have lost competitiveness and are stuck in a slowly tightening debt trap. High-interest loans are no help for insolvent countries. They need debt forgiveness and years of subsidies if they are to muddle through in EMU. And is this forthcoming? No. Why? Because Germany doesn't want to give it, and the German politicians don't want to give it because the German people don't want to give it, or the Dutch people, or there aren't that many countries with spare money to give these debt forgivenesses and subsidies. And if they did, who would they give them to? Greece, Ireland and Portugal. So Italy and Spain would be giving subsidies to those three. Would they not realise that it would be a far better thing to be in the subsidised club than it would be in the subsidising club? Mrs. Merkel appears ready to back a boost for the EFSF. That's what I call the bailout package or bailout programme, and its lending power up to €500 billion, so long as other states swallow her competitiveness pact. This diktat requires non-Germans to reshape their societies in a German mould, and they've told her to go to hell. She has not agreed to reduce the EFSF penal rates, in other words, charging the equivalent Ireland 5.8%, or allow it to help crippled states buy back their own bonds in the open market at a discount. That's things that I've been trying to explain to you while trying to understand it myself. This may change, but it has not happened yet. There may be some sort of breakthrough at next month's EU summit, perhaps on EFSF bond purchases, but Mrs. Merkel is deeply constrained at home. She just lost an election at the weekend. Comments by Bundesbank chief Axel Weber that he could not serve as ECB chief because the institution had strayed from orthodoxy and left him in a minority were frankly calamitous. There can no longer be any doubt that Germany has lost control of the ECB, that the implicit contract under which the German people agreed to give up the Deutschmark has been breached. The Axel Weber debacle comes at a bad moment. Germany is already in full cyclical upswing and needs higher interest rates. Jim O'Neill from Goldman Sachs said Germany had decoupled from Europe. The Germans are going to have to accept 3% inflation, or 4%, or 5%. Germany's producer price inflation reached 5.7% in January. The country is hitting capacity limits, yet ECB rates are still 1%. One rate must fit all. And if they're going to carry on with that, low rate, just to keep countries that are just on the limit of growth, like France, growing, I'd buy a house in Germany, because something must boom in Germany. They can't be reasonable for decades on end. Something's got to give. EMU travails will go on and on until Germany understands that it has been lured into a trap. It cannot both be a member of a monetary union and remain a self-governing sovereign nation. Are the countries of Europe going to subjugate themselves to the equivalent of a Washington and turn themselves into the equivalent of states of the United States of Europe? That is the question that will be discussed, whether they know it or not, in the meeting in 2 weeks' time. It's a big, big meeting, and fudging it just will not cut it. A couple of comments down below. Always interesting reading the comments. Captain Mannering writes, in my view, the Eurozone will be a full monetary union in the next year or so, and on the road to full federal European Union ultimately. After all, what else could it be? And that is the question. What else could it be except the full union thing? But Paul down below says, nah, just can't see it. The Germans, written badly, the German people just won't go for it. And even if they did, would the rest of Europe accept German hegemony over them? I just don't see it. I just don't. And that is the situation in Europe. Nations that have been nations for hundreds of years deciding whether they want to be reduced to the state of being just states of some European Union. Very, very tricky. That's it. Bye.